Hello everybody, welcome back. Today I'm going to be doing a deck profile on Shining Sarcophagus, utilizing some of the new Dark Magician support that has been announced in the OCG. This new support is really good in Shining Sarcophagus, specifically any deck that can utilize level 6 or higher Dark Spellcaster monsters specifically, which the Dark Magician Girl on the screen is one. I know my my proxy there of the Dark Magician of Destruction looks really dodgy. The printer is running out of ink and need to go get some more. But I'll talk about the new support when we get to it. But it certainly makes the Shining Sarcophagus deck a lot stronger. Is this deck going to be super competitive? No, but it definitely gains a big boost from the new support, and I'll explain it as we get there. But this Dark Magician Girl has become one of the best cards in the deck, purely because it now basically allows you to access Dragoon for essentially free. If you don't know what this card does, you discard a card to special summon it. It then becomes Dark Magician Girl, and then on normal or special summon, it adds one Shining Sarcophagus from your deck to your hand. So it's 3 more copies of Shining Sarcophagus, which is important because the deck really just lives and dies by accessing that card. One thing the deck doesn't really have in terms of the Shining Sarc cards is just like a payoff for your engine. You get to Dragoon through the Dark Magician Girl, but then the rest of these cards aren't exactly much of a payoff. I'm just playing 2 of the Gadget Trio. It's a starter, it's a 1-card combo for sure. But the normal summon, like if that gets stopped, it's just really hard to kind of recover. Like you really need specific extenders to kind of push forward. Whereas if Dark Magician Girl gets stopped, you can normal summon just anything in your hand and still access plays. But yeah, so we're just playing 2. Gandora G, I'm playing just at 1 copy, great for breaking boards. It's just a free special summon if needed. Same for the 1 Dark Magician. I originally wasn't playing this, but it also becomes Dark Magician while it's on the field. So there is kind of use cases for it in terms of other combo lines, which I'll explain in a moment as well. Playing just 1 Silent Magician 0, I guess the payoff for the Shining Sarc cards is using Ties That Bind to summon out the 2 silent monsters. But the issue with that whole concept is just like these are bricks. The Ties That Bind is generally a brick. Like they're not cards you want to see in your hand. So I'm just playing 1 just as a target. You'd summon off Gandora. In a pinch, you could just normal summon this if you need to. And then the last monster for the Shining Sarc portion is Magician Souls. While not specifically an in-archetype card, I guess I'll explain this fusion monster here now. But this is a fusion monster. It's kind of like a Link 1. And it says it can be fusion summoned or special summoned by banishing a level 6 or higher Dark Spellcaster monster you control during the turn a spell card or effect has activated. Dark Magician Girl accesses the Shining Sarcophagus, so a spell is activated, often using Future Silence to search this, so a spell has been activated. You basically are always going to have this with a spell activated the majority of the time. Obviously, if you start with this and it gets stopped, then you're not going to have a spell activated, but that's when you revert to plan B, which we'll get to, Fiendsmith cards. But otherwise, then on summon, this card adds a Dark Magician or 1 card that mentions it from your deck to your hand. So Magician Souls is 1 target. And this is the target if we don't start with the Shining Sarc cards, because we've got another engine that allows us to access this card, and Magician Souls lets us dump the Dark Magician Girl, go into Selene, and we can do all the Shining Sarc plays as well. The other target we play is the Gaze of Timaeus. Again, great print job on my behalf as well. But basically this card takes a Dark Magician or Dark Magician Girl that you control in the graveyard and fusion summons a fusion monster from your extra deck that mentions it as material by shuffling the monster into the deck. This guy becomes Dark Magician, so you link him off for Fiendsmith plays, and then you use the Gaze to put him back into the extra deck to summon out Dragoon. You don't need a dragon for this. It's kind of like the Eye of Timaeus where it just turns the 1 monster into the fusion, but you get to do it from the graveyard. Shuffling this back is more or less irrelevant. I mean, you do certainly have access to another target later on if you get to that, but you certainly aren't summoning more than 1 Dragoon this way, because we're just playing the one Gaze of Timaeus. Maybe in the future, because I know that the OCG has started to print more Dark Magician support. Maybe we do more of a mishmash between the 2 decks, but at the moment, this is mainly just focusing on the Shining Sarc cards and just a really small Dark Magician engine with Magician Souls and Gaze of Timaeus to just set up Dragoon as just another interruption. So yeah, we're playing the 1 Gaze and the 1 Magician Souls as targets for the fusion. So they're the monsters. The spells, we've got the Shining Sarcophagus, of course, at 3, Future Silence, of course, at 3, and I'm playing 1 turn Silence. So I've tried to kind of just minimize the cards for the Shining Sarc deck that you don't need. Turn Silence is just basically just a monster negate that you can set to the field at some point. But like I said, the Shining Sarc deck itself, even if you play all of the other bricks, the payoffs aren't fantastic. It doesn't really have like a boss monster as such. Like, you know, Gandora G is crazy. Gandora G can wipe the field and summon out your Silent Magician 0, which kind of acts like a boss monster. I mean, it's got a spell negate, it's pretty good. Can get into massive attack points, but you don't really have a massive boss monster in this deck. So the best thing I'm using it for at the moment is just linking into Fiendsmith and setting up Dragoon. You could do this better in other decks, but I do really like the Shining Sarc cards themselves, and being able to just, you know, summon a Gandora and nuke the field is always a great feeling. So now for the Supplementary engine, which is like the other engines, which certainly make the deck a whole lot stronger. A Dark Spellcaster that is level 6 or higher is Diabellstar the Black Witch, playing it with 3 Wanted, a Deception, and a Hallowed. So basically this gives us 6 more 1-card starters that accesses the Shining Sarcophagus cards, because we can use this engine. It gets us into Sylvia, it gets us into Selene, which accesses Dark Magician Girl, which means we get the Shining Sarc engine. Now the Shining Sarc engine, like I said, the payoff is really just the Fiendsmith cards, but because the Shining Sarcophagus sits on the field, on turn 3 it becomes more devastating because we can just kind of keep playing. Like this engine is not super recursive, but you do just have a lot of ways to play, which of course the Fiendsmith engine does really well as well. But this is pretty expensive on your hand. There's definitely a world where you don't need to play this engine. This engine is great because it, again, spellcaster, so it fulfills the requirement for the fusion. But when you use this line, you've got to go for Magician Souls, because that's how you're going to get access to Dark Magician Girl. Now, in a more competitive deck, and this is something that I'm going to be profiling again soon, in a more competitive deck, you'd certainly just cut all the Shining Sarcophagus cards, let's be real, and play something like an Azamina Kashtira deck, or Azamina Fiendsmith deck. You get Dragoon for basically free. You get to Sylvia for free, you get the Fiendsmith cards. Like you can do a lot with just Diabellstar now. Like Diabellstar gets you to Dragoon, it gets you to Sylvia, gets you to Caesar, all just kind of like by itself. Obviously you need like the discards for like Deception and the Diabellstar itself, but you know, you throw in the trap card, the Morianne, and you get a book as well. Like the engine itself does a lot. Yes, it's very susceptible to hand traps, and it's not good for card economy, but it's pretty strong. Like the end boards you can pull off. We're playing just a really minimal Fiendsmith engine. This is something we just want to link into. Engraver, Lacrima, Larry, Tract. And I am playing the Paradise just to kind of give the end board a little bit more oomph. Because if you just get stuck playing Fiendsmith cards, which you probably are going to get stuck playing Fiendsmith a lot, just having the trap gives you just a little bit more power. This is a 42 card deck. Obviously we can send this away with the Diabellstar. We've got ways to kind of get rid of it out of hand, but just going for like the minimal package, you could opt to play 41 and turn these into Sanct, just like 1 Sanct, and just do like this really small engine. I mean, you could cut Paradise and do 1 Sanct as well, but I wanted the Fiendsmith engine to have just that little bit extra oomph with Paradise, and if you open with the Fiendsmith cards rather than link into it through the combo, then you don't get access to the Caesar and Trap if you use Sanct, basically, because you get your 1 Light Fiend short. So the 5-card engine there. The non-engine side is where it's lacking a little bit. This is just 13 in a 42 card deck. This is just format dependent, of course. So like these are just the 9 good cards. I'm playing Droplet and just a Talents, but you could obviously play whatever you want. Here in this kind of section, Droplet's really good with like Gandora because you negate the stuff and then nuke the board is great. Charmies are good, but this is just format dependent. You play whatever you want to play here. Like I said, this is 42 cards. I mean, the deck is pretty consistent in terms of like 1-card starters. You've got the 3 Dark Magician Girl, the Gadget Trios, the Shining Sarcophagus, the Future Silence, all of the Witch cards. Like there's there's a lot of consistency in terms of one card combos, and then basically any hand's going to turn into Fiendsmith combo because you'll have some combination of extender and normal summon. So you're kind of always playing. You could probably afford to go to 45 and play 3 more non-engine and put you up to 16, which is pretty good numbers. For the extra deck, like I said, we're playing the 1 Dark Magician of Destruction, and then we're playing Red Eyes Dark Dragoon. This deck really just doesn't care about its extra deck at all, so that's why you can kind of justify fitting in like the full Fiendsmith engine. So, you know, sticking with fusions, we've got Desiree, Necroquip, Azamina cards, Moo and Ilya Sylvia. For links, again, we can go the full distance here. So Agam Day, Sequence, Requiem, Celine, needed for the combo. SP is just a good card. Dark's a flex spot. Don't have to play this. You could play something else if you wanted to. Moon's obviously important for Fiendsmith cards. Caesar is important for Fiendsmith cards. And Typhon is just another like a flex spot. So you've got a couple of like flexible spots here in terms of Typhon and Dark. These could be whatever you want. They could be a Chaos Angel. They could be other charmers if other charmers were important. You could even play like a Constellar Ptolemy M7, add back cards from the graveyard's pretty good. This could be whatever you want it to be, really. But you can play the full Fiendsmith engine, and just you only really need these 2 for the Shining Star cards. You've got the Azamina cards, but you've got a little bit of flexibility to play what you like. But now I'll show you some combos just to kind of show what the deck is capable of doing, and we'll do some test hands. Okay, so this is going to be the 1 card combo. Yes, it needs a discard for the Dark Magician Girl, but this will show you just kind of how the deck is generally operating. We'll start by summoning Dark Magician Girl by discarding a card. Dark Magician Girl will use its effect to search for Shining Sarcophagus, which we will activate. That's now fulfilling the requirement of the Dark Magician. So now we can banish the Dark Magician Girl, summon out the Dark Magician of Destruction, and use its effect to search for the Gaze of Timaeus. Now we're going to use Shining Sarcophagus to search for Gadget Trio, who we can normal summon and use its effect to search. This is where the Shining Sarc cards do fall just a tiny bit short. There's just no possible way in Engine to get an additional body on the field. In 2-card combos, you could certainly do more, where you have an additional piece of Shining Sarcophagus cards, but really there is no payoff that we can actually physically get to in this position while trying to get into something like the Fiendsmith play. Because if we search something like Turn Silence, this requires both a monster and Shining Sarc on the field, but we're going to link these off for Fiendsmith plays in a second. So searching Turn Silence gets us really nothing. The thing that probably makes the most sense is getting something like Future Silence or a Gandora or something like, I mean, Gandora and Dark Magician are just extenders that we could special summon if we need to. The other thing we could actually do, just, I mean, in this hypothetical, just to kind of insulate the play a little bit more, is to actually take Dark Magician. Actually, we take Future Silence, maybe. It doesn't really matter. But basically, if we think that this is going to get interrupted in some way, we can summon this to the field and use this as the target for Gaze of Timaeus instead. But, I mean, that kind of plays around a Bestial. But anyway, it's much of a muchness. We'll just grab Future Silence anyway, just as a card for the future. Now we can link off. Summon Moon. And then we can opt to hold Gaze of Timaeus, or we can use it. Like I said, if we use it now, the Dark Magician goes to the extra deck and Dragoon gets summoned out. Why we could choose to hold this is, obviously this insulates the Fiendsmith plays, and that's probably what we need the Fiendsmith plays going through, because that's ultimately what's going to be carrying us to victory, not so much the Dragoon. But this will get banished during the end phase of the next turn, which is our opponent's end phase. Which means on turn 3, like, we still just got to, beat our opponent with our other cards. We just lose access to Dragoon. If you start with the Azamina cards, we can actually just set the Gaze of Timaeus kind of like an interruption, and then we can summon Dragoon on their turn, meaning we get access to it again on our following turn, just to kind of guarantee that we win the game. But we'll summon it definitely here, because we really need the Fiendsmith cards to go ahead and be successful. So we can link off Moon, Requiem, and this is all just normal stuff. I mean, there's nothing exciting or fun here. Actually, I think it's fun, but some people would say it's not. Lacrima, Sending Graver, Requiem Equip, Necroquip, this whole song and dance we've seen before. Obviously, if a ban list changes this, and certainly by the time we get the Dark Magician cards, a ban list will probably have addressed this in some way, but it's fun to think about while we can, and we can go for Caesar. You can choose to put Dragoon up here if you want to, just if like zones were to matter, but I mean, for this case, we've got nothing on the board, so it's fine. So we've got Caesar, we've got Dragoon, we've got great follow-up with Shining Sark and Future Silence here. We've got the Lacrima into Requiem on our opponent's turn to get the trap engrave as well. So Fiendsmith plays, Dragoon's a crazy card. Future Silence, like lots of follow-up, Fiendsmith follow-up, like heaps of follow-up, which is lovely. And you know, obviously if this all gets wiped, then you know, we can go straight to Gandora and still try and push for an OTK on the next turn as well. So this is kind of like the main baseline one card combo you're going to do with the Shining Sarcophagus cards. If we start with Gadget Trio, we can search Future Silence and use it to grab Dark Magician Girl, who can then grab Shining Sarcophagus. And we can basically do the same thing because we can turn the Dark Magician Girl back into Dragoon and link into Fiendsmith the same way. But now I'll show you the combo with the Azamina cards. Okay, so this combo is just the Azamina engine. This is Diabell Star starting, obviously wanted in draw phase or wanted whenever, also gets us to the exact same point. But what we will do here is obviously start with Diabell Star by pitching a card. And we're going to set Deception. Actually, this combo will look a little bit different. It's actually preferable to start with Wanted. It just makes the Selene line a little bit cleaner, but I'll show you what I mean by that when we get to it. We've got Deception. We want to tribute a monster out of hand because we want to keep the Spellcaster around here. So we'll tribute a monster out of hand, grab Hallowed. We're going to activate Hallowed, reveal the Mew, send Deception, summon Mew. The Mew is going to search, Wanted. Just shuffle the deck, that's right. So you can see like, at this point we have 2 spells in graveyard. We need 3 for Selene, but it's fine. So we can banish the Diabell Star to summon from the extra deck the Dark Magician of Destruction. It's going to use its effect, and we can't grab the Gaze of Timaeus here. We're going to grab Magician Souls. And what we're going to actually have to do here, this way, it's a little bit awkward, is we just have to make a link to. If we had started with Wanted, at this point we'd already have 3 spells in graveyard, so we could just summon the souls and go straight for Selene. But we do have to make a link to here. So this is where the Dark does come in handy, just as a link to. That's pretty free to summon. Like I said, if you weren't playing Dark, you could kind of throw away SP here as another kind of option, but any link to will get there. Because now we're going to go for Hallowed to add back to hand, putting back Moo. We'll use Hallowed here just because we want to kind of insulate our plays, and we've got to get the Wanted into the graveyard. So that's going to make the Sylvia. And now we're pretty free just to go for Souls, and Souls is going to send Dark Magician Girl to the graveyard. Now we can turn Souls and Dark into Selene. We have 3 spells in the graveyard, so we're going to bring back Dark Magician Girl. She's going to search for the Shining Sarcophagus. And before we go ahead and use Shining Sarcophagus, we can do Fiendsmith things. So we can take Selene and Dark Magician Girl, Moon, Requiem, Lacrima, send Engraver, equip Requiem, turn into Necro Equip, and then obviously do the Engraver. I mean, in this example, we could opt to go for Desiree, we've got Sylvia to kind of back it up, but like just to keep it all simple, we'll go for Caesar. Obviously with the Lacrima, Requiem, and Graveyard is another interruption. And now we can activate Shining Sarcophagus. And again, the Shining Sarc cards don't really get us very far. In this use case, we get to normal summon Gadget Trio. So searching that off Shining Sarcophagus. Gadget Trio can search. It can grab Future Silence, so this is just now dependent on if we had like an IP Masquerena in the extra deck, which we're not currently playing, we could opt to play it, but we would go Gadget Trio, grab Future Silence, summon Dark Magician, and link off for IP. But the other, just an easy thing to do is just grab Turn Silence. And we can set that to the field. So, I mean, as you can see, like just through that kind of combo. In terms of like the follow-up from here is, again, we've got Shining Sarcophagus as follow-up. We have the 2 negates here, 3 negates here. So Omnigate, Monster Negates, Special Summon Negates, Monster Negate, Lacrima and Requiem in the graveyard. We can obviously do the Wanted Draw. So we could get Deception back to the field if we want to, and then void the Wanted Draw here, or we could go for the Wanted Draw and put Deception back. By keeping the Deception on field and not doing the Wanted Draw at this point, we obviously get to continue with the Azamina engine going into the next turn. So in terms of follow-up, we're really off to the races because we get to add back the Hallowed and we're guaranteed a simple spoil card to keep playing. So we've got all 3 engines in rotation. Again, I know you probably look at this and go, well, the Shining Sarc cards ultimately have done nothing, and it's mostly accurate. But if you want to say that you're playing Shining Sarcophagus, this is what you can do. You can certainly cut the Azamina cards. I've seen builds in the OCG that have done well at just local events. I haven't seen anyone playing Azamina. Mostly pure. One build I saw was playing Ready Fusion and Sandwich. That certainly isn't going to get you to. It's interesting. I think that's just going to get you to Dragoon. It certainly doesn't get you up to Selene and reviving back the Magician Souls. I think this is cool because it just gives you a lot more consistency for your Shining Sarc cards. Where this engine here would be stronger is if you opted to play a couple of extra bricks. And again, this is why I'm just opting not to play it for consistency reasons. But if you chose to play, in addition to the 42 cards we're already playing, the 1 Ties That Bind and the 1 Silent Swordsman 0, instead of going for Turn Silence, you could of course go for Ties That Bind, summon out 0, and summon out Magician. I would probably be summoning Ilya. Oh, actually, we can't because we had the Dark Charmer here. I mean, you could choose to summon Caesar up top, potentially, if you want to. Chances are you're going to use its negates. Otherwise, you just fill up your monster zones here. But if you play the 2 extra kind of brick cards here, Ties That Bind, it certainly makes your end board even stronger. I've just kind of thought between the Caesar and the Sylvia, the Fiendsmith cards, like the end board is already strong enough. But this definitely makes the Shining Sarc cards pull a little bit more weight because you've got more going on in terms of interruption, for sure. But they're the 1-card combos. I'll just do some test hands to kind of show what the deck is capable of in terms of like consistency and whatnot, and then we'll call it a day. So as part of this little thought experiment, I've kept Ties That Bind and the Swordsman into the deck. So the deck count is now 44 cards. If you wanted to kind of offset consistency a little bit, you could certainly add 1 more Black Witch to balance it out, make it 45. But 13 non-engine in 45 cards is not good. 13 in 44 I don't think is very good either. So we'll see if adding those 2 cards affects, engine to non-engine ratio. We have Wanted, Dark Magician Girl, Talents. There we go, speaking of. And Fua. So going second, obviously we're fine. Fua and Talents, that's pretty good. Obviously Fua can get stopped, but seeing one of these power cards in your hand going second is always a good feeling. Going first, this is crazy. We've got lots of engine happening, so if this obviously gets stopped, we can still kind of full combo. We don't need this to get into the Magician Souls, so we can get Dragoon early. We can get Dragoon through the Dark Magician Girl. We can obviously tie that bind into this as well later on. So we've got everything happening. Fiendsmith cards will be online as well. Even if things along the way here get stopped, we could certainly just get 2 bodies into Fiendsmith, no worries. So this is pretty good. We've got good mix of non-engine and engine. Wonder how many times in these test stands we'll have ties that bind and the swordsman come up. Knowing my luck, they'll come up a lot. Engraver, Dark Magician, Future Silence, Droplet, and Perulia. Okay, so I mean, we're seeing 2 non-engine again, which is great considering our non-engine to engine ratio. That's surprising. I think 1 is we've got a much higher chance of seeing just 1, but seeing 2, obviously that's what we want to be seeing, definitely. Combo wise, we've got the combo here with Future Silence going into Dark Magician Girl. We've got Engraver as well, just to kind of go for the Caesar early. Obviously under something like Droll, we can draw phase with Future Silence, but we're probably still going to get hit by Droll at some point, and just we'll be relying on the Fiendsmith players to kind of get us there. But yeah. And the Dark Magician hand's just kind of an extender at that point. If we can, obviously, we have to be able to stick Shining Sarcophagus, so if the Dark Magician Girl gets stopped, then it will just sit in our hand. Droll, Droplet, Sword 2 again, that's nice. Wanted, Droll again, and turn Silence. So only 1 way to play the game. Obviously, if this gets stuck, we're just passing on Droll, Droplet, and hoping to survive a turn, in which case we draw into Shining Sarcophagus, which is happy days. I mean, it gives us another chance to try and play. But 1 engine to 2 non-engine is, again, we want one of these cards to be an engine of some sort, just to kind of really help push through things. But it depends on where we get stopped on Wanted as well. I mean, if we get stopped like Ash on Wanted, then we're actually really in a bad position. But if we at least get to Diabellstar, we still just get to Fiendsmith cards. And I guess that's where having that small Fiendsmith engine is just good. I mean, obviously for interruption's sake, it means that we've got something that we can do when we get inevitably hit with all the hand traps. 0, there he is again. Diabellstar, Deception, Diabellstar, Perulia. So the only 1 non-engine here. The duplicate Diabellstar's fine. I mean, it's just redundancy that we're just going to pitch off with the Diabellstar anyway. Yeah, one non-engine is not ideal, but that's just the trade-off, and maybe that's why we played 42, just to kind of make the odds a little bit better. In terms of other cards you could cut, I mean, you could do the same thing I was describing. You don't have to play Fiendsmith in Paradise, but I just think the Shining Card cards don't pay off enough. The Dark Magician could be cut. I mean, at the end of the day, it's just an extender that hits for 2,500. It can search out Gaze of Timaeus if it's nuked by the Gandora, which is nice. Certainly is an option. So in this hand, we have no non-engine, so not ideal at all. Fiendsmith Paradise sitting in hand is not good. The 1 turn Silence when we don't have Shining Star cards is, again, not good. We've got lots of overkill on the Wanted cards, which we're just going to use them as like cost for the Wanted cards between that and the Fiendsmith in Paradise. At the end of the day, we can certainly probably get to, well, it's not even guaranteed actually. We don't even have a card to normal summon to get into Moon if we need to, but so not a good hand. Okay, we'll do one more. I'm interested to see what the ban list certainly does to this deck in terms of like the Fiendsmith cards and where they end up, to see kind of how viable this will all be moving down the line. But I'm definitely keen to play the Shining Star cards with the Dragoon. With or without Fiendsmith cards, I think this card's going to be really strong, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what it can do. Here, 2 non-engine, obviously these conflict, but we do what we can with that. We've got Future Silence to kind of help play around Droll in the draw phase. Opening Gaze of Timaeus is fine. I mean, it's not, we don't need it. I mean, we obviously still have to go through the Dark Magician, so it is a good draw, but you could technically play the Dark Magician Girl Knight. It's not here. The Dark Magician Go Knight card. It's got a quick effect to discard a card and pop a card in the field. That it can be summoned with Gaze of Timaeus. It's not terrible, but discarding a card is still pretty costly. But you could play it as an additional target. I mean, in this exact situation, if you went Future Silence for Dark Magician Girl and it got impermed, you could technically chain the Gaze of Timaeus to dodge it. But I don't think it's worth coming up for the one of. But anyway, that's the deck. The Shining Sarcophagus deck is certainly one of my favorite decks. I mean, it's probably my favorite deck that is not very competitive, if I had to describe it in a way. I don't know why I like it so much. I think it almost certainly has a lot to do with Gandora G. I've just got a bit of an affinity to the Gandora lineup of monsters, and this card's crazy. But yeah, that's it for this deck profile, and hope to get some more videos out ASAP.